Agent Jim Pine.
This is Agent Matty D.
This is us, people. We are the Agents of Aquarius, and we're not the only two. There's a whole bunch of you out there. This is our first podcast together, and you might be thinking, "What is?" I know what Agents of Aquarius is. I think these guys might have had a typo, or I think the wrong word got put in there. It's supposed to be Age of Aquarius, and
No,
you wouldn't be
sir.
wrong. That would be a thing, but not here. This isn't about the age of Aquarius. This is about the agents of Aquarius. This is about the people out there that are fighting back against the system. We are the ones questioning the narratives, questioning what's happening, questioning reality, to be honest with you, the group reality, because we seem to live in a really toxic world. And we both know, along with everybody else that would watch this, we can do much better. We can do so much better. And we're not agents of the Matrix. We are the agents of Aquarius.
Hallelujah. That's right. The goal we move towards is to look at the lighter side of things, to see the positive in it. And before you can really get into that, though, you kind of need to understand the world we're actually living in. And it's a pretty fucked up place. And the big question of why that is a major topic of this show. I think the method of control in the world these days is really narrative management, to get an idea out there that people agree with, and then they go along with that idea. Kind of like things are just the way they are. It's always been that way, and it kind of just happened organically, and that is a huge lie. But people accept it, so we dissect it and break it down and understand why that is a bunch of bullshit.
Well said,
And
my
then,
friend.
yeah, thank you. Then you could find a different way of doing things once you've understood the world you're actually living in.
Yeah, you have to understand that like we live in an incredibly beautiful world, a magical world. But unfortunately, there's people that are trying to cloud that up. There's people that are trying to control other people, and in that strive for power, they conflate things, they lie, they steal, they do. And I'm not talking about stealing bread. I'm talking about creating a false Babylonian money magic system to get people all fought and thinking about one thing, like capitalism. It's like, it's money. What about people? That's what we need to be thinking about. What about the people? Not the corporations, the people.
Yeah, and
And
this is
that's
a
why
great
we're
time
here.
to.
Yeah, that's why we're here. We're not owned by anyone. We are two men of our own authority in this world. And we've traveled far to get here, but we're here. And I'm very happy to be here with you. And hopefully we can spread a little bit more light into this world that has darkness and has light, and help people understand.
Yeah, man. And the timing's good too, because it's not just capitalism, but it's late stage capitalism. And it's just more and more obvious that while capitalism might have been good for a time, it really evolves into a fucking monster. And we're living in monstrous times. The system that was good is now eating itself alive. And that makes it easier to highlight what we want to highlight, the actions of the Matrix.
Yes, the Matrix. It distracts us. It distracts so many people. I was 47 years old until I found where I was supposed to actually be and what I'm actually supposed to be doing, going onto a stage. And that I didn't know. I'd never done it once before. And that's because of the Matrix. It's a fear cast system that puts people into a place and makes them think they just got to be a cog in a wheel. And there is a
Mhm.
beauty to being a cog in a wheel, but it depends what machine are you operating for? That's the most important thing. Are you a cog in a wheel that's just going to grind that cog up at the end? Or are you a cog in a wheel that's trying to create a humanity where we only have better food, better education, better medicine, uh, better systems for communication? Meanwhile, we're trying to fill the air with invisible waves so we can communicate like we are right now, like communicating through waves in the air. It's freaking wild. And then all the meanwhile, we forget oh, dude, we can do this without all the technology. We have the technology in us. The telepathy is a real thing, proven in proven in college institutions where they will then usually hide the study because the college is also funded by AT&T.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah,
And intelligence agencies that want that business
yeah.
for themselves. We've all heard of what was the that astral projection program that the intelligence agencies were doing?
Remote viewing.
That's it. Remote viewing,
Well, that's what
exactly.
they call it. They didn't call it astral projection. They called it remote viewing. It, like
No,
one
that's
part
because
they
they're in the
might call it.
matrix and we're the Aquarius, man. We call it astral projection. We call it what it is because we're recognizing that there's a whole nother dimension out there that you can operate in. Whereas an intelligence agency is really focused on a very ordinary dimension that they can try to do extraordinary things within. They're not seeing the larger picture, though. Well, I say they're not seeing the larger picture, but that I can't stand by that statement
Well,
because I
step
don't know
that
what the hell
back.
they think. Yes,
Exactly. Step that back because they very much might see the larger picture and then obscure the larger picture so that we only stay in the small picture.
that's way more a way better way of looking at it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're aware that there's if you're here, you already know. There's so much hidden knowledge. There's so much, and you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful of going after this knowledge. It's not like you can just grab it. The vessel needs to be ready to hold the information. And I think one of the biggest things you could think of in that matter would be real quickly, like if you, oh, I'm gonna go look for like how do I do like real magic in this world? Like, oh, I can hold my breath longer, whatever it is. And you find out a lot in Hinduism. You find out a lot in that Eastern culture, and they call it siddhis. It's like special properties or powers. But you have to be careful. They one where you awaken the Kundalini energy, and that if you are not ready, and that energy will blow your vessel out. And it might not appear from the outside, it does, but your mind will get scrambled from the amount of power and energy that you weren't ready to harness. And
for sure.
it's said. And some of us have personal experiences. Maybe someday, those things people will talk about those things. But we live in a world that there's a veil put over to obscure our true knowledge, the knowledge of how we are supposed to operate, and we have probably for 50 to 100,000 years. And we're here because the veil is the matrix. Our greatest battle in this world, it's not to stay alive. Our greatest battle is for our minds. And we need to be the authority and control and have power over ourselves, authority over our minds versus allowing it just out where people can broadcast news to you. And you're just like, well, they told me. And then you're like, that's the news, just like
That's
science.
what we're trying to
Yeah.
break. That's exactly the cycle we're trying to break because people get information and they see it from a verifiable authority and they accept it as actual reality. And actual reality is very different from what is being broadcast as a message to the majority of people out there. I mean, thank God for
Yeah.
alternative media because you're not stuck with just mainstream media. But
Well, the classification of information being, in this country, we have freedom of speech, which is really nice because it allows a confluence of ideas and thoughts to happen. Some of them are great. Some of them are absolutely like horrific. But once again, the best answer, what is the best answer to bad speech, Matt?
oh, it sure isn't censorship. It's good speech. It's
Yeah,
intelligent response, an intelligent response to a bad idea.
that's it. Like, yeah, and show the idea that it's like, well, what about this, and this instead of you can't say that. And in America, we were never supposed to have that happen because we're supposed to have freedom of speech. Yes, you cannot yell. We don't have such freedoms of speech that you can yell fire in a movie theater because you will then, from your free speech, create violence and harm onto others, possibly in a hidden hand way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't do anything. It's like you yelled that and like freedom of speech. Um, but you should be like, but in a way, you should be able to yell fire in a theater, and people should be able to like know better or work it out without
No,
becoming violent.
that's a fair thing to have as a control in your society. Don't yell fire in the theater. I'm fine with that. What I don't like is when I say censorship is bad, and someone comes along and they're like, "Well, I don't want to give a platform to Nazis," and I say, Give the fucking Nazi a platform so everyone can see who they are and what their ideology is, and then let the market sort it out. Because if that person is looking for a job, they might not get hired. If that person owns a business, they might not be successful. I say let them have their voice so that normal, sane, rational thinking people can look at a crazy ass ideology like that and be like, well, fuck that guy.
Mm.
That's why that was the thinking back when the ACLU was a free speech organization, and they had that famous thing where the Nazis wanted to do a march in that Illinois town where a bunch of Holocaust survivors lived, and they're like, no, we can't let these guys here. And the ACLU came in. I'll try to remember who was running it at that time, but
It was a
they
fine
came
Jewish
in.
fellow. It was a Jewish fellow. I don't remember his name.
It
And yeah,
is.
yeah. And they were like,
He
okay.
sounds like a guy in NPR now, and
Hmm.
well, whoever he is, but the point was they're like, no, let them march. And when they did let them march, there was a counter protest that was way bigger than their march, and they kind of got run out. And it was a perfect example of how the market sorts shit out.
Yeah, without exact details, 100 Nazis, neo-Nazis, whatever, a
Mm-hmm.
hundred ignorant people showed up, 100 hate-filled people showed up. And the best thing to do is you don't firebomb those people. You show them 10,000 people
Mm-hmm.
filled with love show up. And like nobody's gonna hear you because we're gonna drown you out because we have 10,000 voices of
Yeah,
peace,
who were there
love,
for a way different reason.
acceptance. Yeah, and that's how you beat it. Um, yeah, dude, we live very interesting times. Um, we're watching so much change. You know, Uh, now if you yell fire in a theater and you're in an auditorium, they're like, you can't say that. This is an auditorium. That's a lie. That's disinformation. It's fire
Mm-hmm.
in an auditorium. But then they also put tape over your mouth when you said that. Fire in a theater. And now you're like, fire in an auditorium. Nobody knows as they burn in the auditorium. That's the way it works now. It's like, nope, no, no, that's not real. And we live in the book 1984, which we were forced to read in school, which is wild. Like they let us, they like,
Well, there's some good forces pushing back, because if back
yes.
when we were in school, we were being told to read 1984, there were people out there who knew the power of propaganda. And, this is why we have the Smith-Mundt Act from 1947, 1948, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
where it specifically states, hey, government agencies, you can do your propaganda on other countries, but it is illegal to do it in the United States.
All agencies. It wasn't
All
just
agencies.
CIA. Yeah, it
It
wasn't
was
just
all
CIA.
government agencies. That was 1947, 1948, Smith-Mundt Act. And
Yes.
Agent Pine, tell me what happened to that act. It had a pretty good run.
In 2013 is when the act was amended, would be the word. Probably saying the wrong one. Well,
Sure.
the act changed. Smith-Mundt Act was repealed. The Smith-Mundt Modernization Act,
Mm-hmm.
enacted by President Barry Soetoro, also known as Barack Hussein Obama. He came in and said, no, no, no. It's okay
Change it up.
now. It's okay for the news and intelligence agencies to work hand in hand to
Government agencies.
specific word use propaganda against the American people. That
They
means,
legalized it. They
yeah,
fucking legalized it.
yeah.
The very first thing I remember as soon as that passed was Russians hacked the power grid in the Northeast and the power went out in the winter. Those fucking Russians, look what they did. And it turned out to be a lie, because it turned out at that power company, there was a employee who had his private laptop and it had some Ukrainian malware on it. And they spun that as a lie into the Russians hacked the power grid. And it was all a lie,
Yes.
and a legal lie, if that makes any sense whatsoever. No, I don't think it does, but
So on Agents of Aquarius, you know who we are now. You know our names. You know what the agents are about. We're going to come in every week. We're going to talk to you about the most random of subjects, but we're going to start out each week with news. And that's why Matt's talking, or Matty is talking right now
yeah,
about the
call me
Smith
whatever you want, baby.
modern. Yeah, we'll usually try to talk about something in the news. It doesn't have to be always current. We don't know what it's going to be because that's in the future. And we wouldn't want to waste our time machines. So in our news segment this week, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Smith Modernization Act. That's the news of today, everybody. Dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun.
there you go.
So this is
Bravo.
this was obviously there was an operation being done where there must have been propaganda being put on the United States citizens, the American people, because they had to come up with a thing saying you can't do this, called the Smith Modernization or the Smith Mundt Act.
Yeah.
1947, like you said.
Or is it just intelligent hindsight looking at what happened in Germany because they used their propaganda excessively? No, he's making a face. They've been propagandizing the shit out of the people of this country probably from the beginning.
I think it was done in great for wonderful reasons. I think it was done in a very wise way, and I also think it was done because there was probably propaganda going on against the American people already. It was already happening, and that's why they're like, whoa, fucking
no. World War One was a heavy propaganda era.
Yes,
World War One is a heavy propaganda era just to get us into it. So yeah, we understand they've been doing it forever, no doubt about it. But they actually did the right thing and made a law to make the shit illegal that government agencies, including shit like the NIH, can't spin lies to influence public opinion.
So the NIH can't, right? But now it can.
Up until 2013.
So what they did was, this is how it worked. During that time, they had to like, oh fuck, how are we gonna like? Once again, this isn't like, oh, every politician. This isn't the whole government. This isn't the entire CIA. This isn't any like. There's fractures of each part, including ourselves. We're even fractured in so many different ways, you know. The way they got around this after 1947 was they created Operation Mockingbird. They're like, how do we do this? And like, oh, we know how to do it. We won't do it.
And tell us who they are real quick.
Okay, that would be in Operation Mockingbird. I believe it is the Central Intelligence Agency.
100%, yes.
Which their mission statement is that they cannot operate in the United States of America.
That's CIA, correct. Yeah,
they might be here, but they're not allowed to work here, like on the people here. You all the work you're doing here better be about somewhere else. You're not allowed to operate here because that's the FBI, and that'll be a whole nother program. Wow. Just think about the FBI since 2013 and the Smith Modernization Act being repealed. Like, they've become the propaganda. So they, CIA, creates Operation Mockingbird. You can now Google this if you're like, oh, what are these guys talking about?
No, because Mockingbird. Throw in the Church Committee there, because in 1975, Senator Frank Church out of Idaho headed up the Church Committee, which was looking into intelligence agency abuses of power, and all kinds of shit was rolled out, and a light was shined on it so that the public can actually get a little truth instead of getting lies.
Yeah. That's what they tried to do, because there was another thing called the Warren Commission, right?
Yeah.
And during the Warren Commission, that same agency came up with an idea and said, hey, people aren't buying this, and everybody doesn't buy it. We're going to call them a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. I think 1967, the way I heard the story most recently is that a memo went out to all the station chiefs of the CIA all about the country, the world, wherever. And it was said that there were people who were really actively putting information out there through books or whatever channels they had at the time to argue against what was the official report for the Kennedy assassination? Was it the Warren Commission?
Well, the official report that there was a gentleman in the book depository building and Dealey Plaza.
I just mean what was it called? It was called the Warren Commission, right? The Warren Commission was story.
The Warren Commission was a commission that then looked into the possibility that there might have been something else going on there. They were like, well, people are questioning this Oswald narrative, and we're going to look into it to prove that there wasn't anything. And that's when the Zapruder film comes out, and during that time. And that was the official looking into this assassination, because maybe it wasn't as cut and dry as Oswald in the book depository with the Russian rifle.
Well, to wrap this up, with the point we're on is that the CIA in 1967 started to use this phrase conspiracy theorist to uh, um, argue against people who are making intelligent observations about the official story, and they used their Operation Mockingbird to insert that phrase into public use, into the current lexicon of the time, I guess you said.
Yes. That's where they made contact with and used companies in America, television, news, which would be television also, movies and music. And they were going to try to control this peace narrative that was starting to happen, a peace movement, and they needed to change it. And they started using culture to change it. And then they found out if we can control, or if we can get corporations to control culture and we give them the directives of how to control it, but this is all legal because we're not doing anything, they're doing it. They could stop a peace movement that is about to happen in 1969. And that's done. Look at a great book called Chaos. And that's where that's done on Charles Manson. And, you know, that's part of the peace movement. That's to start destroying this movement that was starting to happen and paint these dirty hippies as psychopathic killers. Because he was part of a different operation. Matt, do you want to name that operation for the audience?
It's got a couple letters in it. It's coming to me, MK Ultra, baby. Another one revealed in the church committee in 1975 that the public learned for the first time that our Central Intelligence Agency was doing mind control experiments on American citizens, Canadian citizens, people all over the world and wherever. But that is another not conspiracy. That is an actual operation that our government did.
It is a conspiracy. It's not.
It is a conspiracy. That's
it's
correct.
Not a conspiracy. Okay, everybody. A conspiracy is just one or more people in secret trying to move a plan. Two people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's more than one person. That's what I meant to say. Two people or more working in secret to enact a plan. That's a conspiracy. That's the definition of the word.
Yeah, and it might have something written into it about it being illegal.
Yes.
Or something.
Also.
Yeah. Now we're talking about MK Ultra. We're talking about Operation Mockingbird. We're talking about the government working with corporations to control the narrative of how people think. And I think it's important to say this thing about Operation Mockingbird because that was the Central Intelligence Agency infiltrating press across the United States. Yeah. And they had either actual intelligence people working for newspapers or they had paid assets working at newspapers and media companies. So they were actively participating to shape the way the public thinks so that they could steer how the country is managed. And it's 100% illegal under the Smith-Mundt Act. And it's weird that it took until 2013 for them to make this shit legal because they've been doing illegal acts as defined under the Smith-Mundt Act for decades and just getting away with it. But I guess there was always a shadow over their heads, like, oh, we might have to own this someday. So at some point they made it legal.
Probably had something to do with the internet and FISA and Freedom of Information Act, where, you know, we can see what the fuck's going on sometimes when they don't redact everything. So when we do a news segment each week, we're literally going to be talking about usually something broadcast by just a regular old whoever lettered agency. And I don't mean the intelligence, I mean the news. And probably I'll just look at Google and just pull it up and be like, what are they throwing at us? Here's 7 things. What are they throwing us? Oh my goodness. And that's what we'll talk about. But this week, instead of really doing the news, you know, we'll do one here for a month, but it's like, let's talk about what is the news. Like, that's really one of the first things you need to know is
good question.
The people that are like informing us, are they informing us? Or are they just telling us something? And then that's the information we've now taken in. They haven't given us any knowledge to spread light or to spread awareness.
Critical thinking, awareness. We're not encouraged to do that. In fact, we're told, trust the experts, trust the science. Don't do your own research. Just take us at our word because we're the professionals.
Yeah.
And that's the most anti-science thing ever.
Well, that's because they've given up their authority. So, this is where we're at, people. This is the state of affairs. I have a feeling, maybe a lot of you have heard all of these things. Maybe some of you have heard nothing of this, but I hope we've presented it in a way where you're like, oh shit, really? So the news isn't the news? And it's like, yeah, we're not. And this isn't like, ooh, CNN, oh, Fox. Oh, it's like, no, they're all full of shit, people. They're all full of shit. Doesn't mean good people might not be working there, but the news is full of shit, dude. And that's what we've just proven here through, you can look up on your own, Smith Modernization Act, Operation Mockingbird, MK Ultra. These are all real things. This is the real world, people. It's not Beyonce. It's not, Will Smith smacking Chris Rock. This is the real world. This is what's really happening. Your news isn't your news. So here we go. Just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, pull us something.
We're going to make sure that even in the first one, we're going to do something in the news. I don't even, you know what? There's one here for Ukraine, but I just looked below it, dude. Okay. Do you want to talk about Ukraine? Ukraine units are leaving behind the Western tanks and advancing slowly on foot.
On foot.
Or, dude, this one's wild.
Sounds like a bad strategy, but go ahead. What's the wild one?
Scientists may have stolen metallic sphericals. I'm sorry. No, I've never seen
spherules.
Yes, you saw this. Spherules found on the ocean floor. Let me read this again. Scientists may have stolen metallic spherules found on the ocean floor. Do you know about this article?
No, I've heard that word used before, and I just kind of figured that's what you were struggling on. But what the fuck did they steal spherules from the ocean floor for?
So this was in Google, and they give you like 5 things when you open up Google. They'll give you like 5 news events, and this is just one. Yeah. This is in Popular Mechanic.
That's a fucking propaganda rag right there. Just saying.
As we just discussed, all of it's a propaganda rag.
All of it, yeah. No, I want to know this. I want to know this shit. What the fuck did these scientists steal and why?
Okay, I am not cherry picking. I am just going to read right from the beginning. Researchers are looking for evidence of extraterrestrial life deep undersea. A team led by controversial physicist. Do you love the keywords? A controversial physicist. Like, they just say physicist. They got to be like, steer your way of what kind of physicist is he? A controversial one.
They're creating an opinion about this guy. Absolutely.
Javi Loeb is combing the ocean floor off the coast of Papua New Guinea for remnants of 2 meters of meteors that they believe could actually be alien tech.
Wow.
They're cost money to print letters on a virtual screen. So they didn't write technology. They just wrote tech. And then the third point of it says the government of Papua New Guinea claims the artifacts recovered by Loeb's team are stolen and is under pressure to abandon a new security agreement with the U.S. as a result. So they're looking in the waters off of Papua New Guinea for 2 meteors that might be alien technology. And Papua New Guinea has said, United States, leave.
And then they have this controversial physicist who stole the shit.
So
what? Can we no longer confirm that these are actually UFO things, spherules, because the guy stole them and he's on the lam? I mean, what? I don't know. Let's keep in mind for a second that since 2017, it's been all about the U.S. government through the Pentagon saying UFOs are real, and the whole nation had a collective yawn, like, whatever. Which
would you like for $1,000 name the operation?
Oh shit!
Or project.
Project.
No, it's Operation. No, not Project Blue. It's Operation. Isn't it Operation Blue Book and all that? That's basically all tied to.
I forget what that was.
What the Operation Blue Book's still looking into the aliens and be like, no, there's no aliens.
Yeah.
But eventually, we'll tell you about the aliens.
For 50s, 60s, 70 years, it was all fucking swamp gas reflected through Venus, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, by the way, it's real. All that discrediting of people we did, all that denial that we did, all that's us officially saying nothing. There's nothing there. Don't worry about that. Let's just move right on to the shit's real now, and they might have a mothership parked off in space So this
Dude.
is our government, and it's a little disappointing to me that the collective culture is just like, yeah, whatever. But maybe that's just because the collective on some level knows that they're being fed a fucking lie and a bunch of bullshit.
Or
Because whatever the actual story is, it ain't what they're telling us. It's not what they're telling us. What's the or? Give me a little more on this.
okay, for $2,500, what would stop people from saying these things? What
And
would
if you call
stop
them a
them from
conspiracy theorist,
no cognitive dissonance? You didn't get it, too bad.
oh shit, there you go. Cognitive dissonance will get most people most of the time.
You've only earned $1,500 today, man.
Gonna need more than that.
It's yeah, dude. Well, it's now that it's the very fact to me that makes it so amusing in a frustrating way is the CIA now coming out, since they can just do it. They don't have to have a news agency. The CIA can now say yes.
They work for the news agencies now. They leave the agency and they go to work for NBC.
Yeah. Well,
Fucking nuts.
but because they got rid of the Smith-Mundt Act is gone. Now they can just do it. Now the CIA can be like, oh yeah, there may be aliens, and then you just the best is literally the mothership.
That's
Like,
a good one.
are you trying to get canceled? You can't gender identify a spaceship, dude. That's ridiculous.
Did the spaceship tell you its gender? I don't think
Come
so.
on. Maybe it's a Zer ship, that's a they ship. I have no idea, but did you ask them? And they probably did. The CIA probably is up there. Well, yeah, we have an office on the 3rd floor of the mothership. It's like, where are you? Joe Rogan's Comedy Club? Stop. That's the biggest mothership in the world right now. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna rip up an article. We're not gonna get crazy. We're gonna have fun with it because we literally just pulled through all the bullshit. It's like I love how they're like metallic sphere, like, oh, you know that it's metal. It's not ABS plastic. Oh, this is not some other type of biological form. It's a metal sphere. It's like, how do you know all that?
No, you know what? Again, they're feeding a line. They're feeding us a line.
Yes.
They want us to think a certain way about a certain topic, and we're being fed a bunch of bullshit to affect the way we see our world.
And even but even if that topic is Avi Loeb, they don't want you to know he's a physicist. He must be a PhD physicist because they're calling him one here, but they're going to make sure controversial. So this is your news. This is what we're not here to bring you the news. We're here to fucking destroy the news generally. And some weeks we're going to be like down with the news and be like, this fucking shit, they nailed this. They nailed this.
Yeah.
Because maybe we'll pull some from some people that maybe Instagram or something and people that are delivering crazy messages. Maybe we'll link in with them. I don't know what we're going to do each week, but we're here to destroy the fucking matrix. Okay. That's what we're here to do. And the best part is you don't have to fight the matrix. You just got to be an agent of Aquarius. That's it. We don't have to destroy the news agencies.
That's just changing the way you think.
Yeah.
That's what it really takes to change the way you think, because you have to first recognize that this news is trying to change the way you think. And if you recognize that first, how you're under some kind of mental attack, then you can change the way you think for the better. Change the way you think to get in alignment with the real world, not with this spin that they dish out. That's why I like these news segments, because it's not about the shit on the bottom of the ocean. It's about what are they trying to make you think.
Yes.
And if you have your own authority and you think for yourself, then you can make way better informed decisions when you start to look at the big picture.
Yeah, because literally we're also here for everyone's minds, but to help free them. That's it. Not because we know the truth. It's because everyone needs to start taking authority over their own mind. Everybody needs to start. Listen, the best thing you can do with the news, the best news you can watch is none of it. Go do a huge life check-in and really fucking fix yourself in so many different ways. See where you're out of balance. Work on all those things. You don't need the news. The news isn't going to tell you fucking shit right now because they've shown us 100%. They can say there's not a fire in the theater when you're in the fucking theater and it's on fire because it's an auditorium. Okay. This is where we're at. So the best thing, a lot of people I did it in 1997. I read a book by an incredible author, an incredible doctor, Dr. Andrew Weil. It was called Living an Optimal Life. And in there, he gave you all these different things to try to learn how to incorporate into your life to live a more optimal life. Because I thought that was an incredible thing at that time in
Appropriate title.
1997. And I was really attracted to that word, optimal. And through that, I started doing a news fast, which turned into me. I don't watch any TV news and any mainstream news. Unfortunately, I have little feeds of other news coming in by my choice because I maybe follow them on Instagram or something. So I am not out of the purview of news and I have to be really careful of it. But I did a news fast for decades and I cannot suggest it enough to people. Stay the fuck away from the news because those mainstream ones are just goddamn polluting your soul. And it's so sad because we all need to have our own minds. We all need to free our minds, dude. We have to. We have to be free with our minds or we're controlled. If you don't have a free mind, you're then controlled. And now that's trouble. That's a tough life.
That is tough. Because what you think is information coming to you is, you're actually being very disinformed. They're leaving out things that are important to you, and they feed you information that quite simply isn't. They give you bullshit, or they take triggers. A true thing and they spin it.
Yes, yeah, that they create triggers off of that.
They take a lot of true things and they spin it and they trigger people to think a certain way.
Mm-hmm. So what you have to do is you have to it's like a jujitsu or like an aikido. It's like a martial art to learn how to do the dance. It's almost just learn how to do a dance with it. Because on a tragic day in September of 2001, on the 11th, the day after Donald Rumsfeld came out and said we were missing like $2.6 trillion. Unfortunately, 2 giant buildings in New York City fell. And it's extremely tragic because there's a lot of loss of life and there's a lot of violence created to people that weren't even there in their minds to see this tragic act. And it's like, that's a trigger word. You can't talk about 9/11. You can't. But inquiring minds want to know things sometimes. Like, what happened to Building 7?
Good question.
Apparently,
question.
2 planes flew into the other ones. Man, that's fucking tragic.
It's
nobody should. If you argue that that's not tragic, you're in the Matrix. But there's this other building hundreds of feet away called Building 7. That's what they called it. And it somehow was not struck by anything. No planes hit that one. That's not what they told us. Maybe one did, and they're not telling us. But
it also wasn't wrecked by falling debris either. Falling debris started office fires in that building. Falling debris started office fires in that structure at multiple different locations. But somehow,
the entire building
collapsed
at
the same time and landed perfectly in its own footprint and became a pile of rubble, a steel and concrete structure
from some office fires?
Into its own footprint from office fires, first time ever.
Didn't they also say there's like some fuel in the basement though too, or something like that?
Don't know.
I think it's maybe because they have like fuel drums down there for generators, and some fuel drums might have also caught on fire.
They can say all kinds of things.
And then because there's like 80 columns on each floor.
Yeah.
And the only way a building can pancake down in its own footprint that we know of in today's science is you have to get all 80 support columns to disintegrate at the same time.
At the same time, simultaneous.
And then you do
within fractions of a second.
Old way, and they and this Building 7, you're telling me pancake down on itself. You know what would be wild? If there was like a news agency that got footage of this, but even better, said it hadn't even fallen yet. They said, "Oh, Building 7 has collapsed," while it's in the BBC reporter.
Yeah, well, the building was still standing.
Crazy. That would be nuts, dude.
Someone's speaking in her ear at the wrong time, it seems like.
Wow.
But seriously though, I like having fun with this. But for whatever reason, 9/11 has come up into my alternative media world recently, and I saw a couple in-depth deep dives about Building 7 specifically. And the way that building came down And the reason it was supposed to happen seems to be completely against all the laws of physics in the actual world. And the University of Alaska not too long ago did a pretty good study about what it would take for the building to fall in the fashion it did when you compare it to the video footage that we have. And in that study, they basically said, well, as you said, you would need something like 87 columns to simultaneously fail at the same exact time.
Mhm.
And there weren't 87
Over and over each floor.
office fires. I don't know about that part, but probably I don't. That's fair to say. Then over and over, one after
because
another.
80
one floor
columns
after
on
another.
each floor has to compress each time. Because
Right.
one floor falling on another wouldn't compress the columns all individually at the exact same time below. It just isn't the way it works.
Yeah. So if
Buildings
we
are
just,
made so that doesn't happen.
if we just take out what could cause that to happen and simply focus on what it would take for that to happen, that's a great way to look at it, because what it would take for that to happen is all those 87 columns at the same time to fail within a fraction of a second of each other. And when you start to think like, wait, so there's office fires in the building at multiple different points, but 87 steel and concrete columns gave out at the exact same time, that doesn't make any logical sense. And of course, the conclusion, which most people listening to this show might already know, might not, but it's that building had to be demoed. That had to be coordinated explosives to cause all 87 columns to fail at the exact same time, because it just can't happen any other way. It can't happen any other way. And that's one of the big that's one of the big smoking guns of the whole 9/11 thing.
Well, this isn't 9/11, man. I mean, this building accidentally fell on 9/11.
It accidentally fell.
We're not talking about the trade towers, everybody. We're not talking about building 1. We're not talking about building 2. We're not talking about this. We're not talking about jets. We're not talking about terrorists. All we're asking is, how did that building fall? Building 7. How did that fall? And now we know, now we know.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to have a lead in for other topics, conversation, other news stories or whatever. And it's going to be, what's the building 7 of that particular topic? Because the building 7 business of 9/11 is a great way to understand that some shit went on that went against the narrative of what we're told.
Yeah, because it's very triggering to listen to people talk about the Twin Towers coming down, because there's so much tragedy.
See it in your mind still.
Yeah, it's a very triggering process. But we're not attached to Building 7. So if you can't...
It was empty too. No one was in it.
So if you... well, I'm sure they evacuated after the 2 fucking things fell.
No, that's what I mean. It's like it took until 5 o'clock in the afternoon for Building 7 to come down or something like that. It was very late in the day. And everyone was out of that building. So, in fact, one of the people we went to school with was working in that building at the time that whole thing played out.
Oh, wow.
But neither here nor there. That's going to be...
If you can't discuss Building 7, or you can't sit here and listen to us talk about just wondering why that went down, this might not be the podcast for you. I'm going to be honest with you. I hope you do listen. I hope you can listen with an open ear, and maybe this... but all we're doing is asking a question. What happened at this other building? That's it. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to talk about Cupid 19. How people were silenced for when they were like, oh, wet market? You should maybe didn't come out of the lab. It's a mile away.
It's right down the street.
So if you say wet market, you get free reign. You get to talk. But then the news, now we know, directed by FBI, started silencing people when they started questioning. So the Building 7 of Cupid 19 is the Wuhan lab.
Yeah, the Building 7 of Cupid 19 is the Wuhan lab, because that was the most, you can't talk about this topic big time. You just couldn't talk about it. You're a racist, you're a xenophobe, or you're a conspiracy theorist.
See how the news isn't really informing, the news is telling.
Yeah.
We talked about this already. There was a Warren Commission created because people were not believing the official narrative of that Oswald in the book Suppository with Russian rifle, because a magic bullet showed up. That's the Building 7 there.
That's
like, we don't know what happened. We're not sure what happened in that moment. We don't know who killed JFK. But why does our inspector show up with a bullet and go, oh, here it is. Here's the one you couldn't find.
And how did that bullet do a 90-degree turn mid-air and hit two different people? Like for that official narrative to be accurate, that one bullet would have had to gone through one person, hooked a 90-degree turn, and gone through another person. And that's a building 7.
That's the building 7.
That's a building 7 moment.
Where'd this come from? What happened? The magic bullet? Like, we can't discuss this. So, recently, the building 7 of 2020 election interference. Okay.
Yeah.
It is now proven that 50 plus intelligence officers came forward.
Senior intelligence officers.
Because they're there. They've been there a while. And said, Hunter Biden's laptop is disinformation. It's Russian propaganda. This isn't real. And they know they influenced an election with that because people said they would have changed their vote had they known that was real.
Yeah.
But it was quashed. Bye-bye. That's a building 7. That's the building 7 of the election. I don't know.
You should let's be sure to put in here that the FBI informed those people that that laptop was real and that it wasn't a Russian psyop or any of that bullshit. Those 51 senior intelligence officers, they knew that that letter they were signing, they knew it was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it to influence the U.S. election.
Yeah. So this is how we're going to be approaching things, people, on this podcast. But we're not here to scare you. We're not here to spread fear. But
we got to spread some knowledge, though, bro. What do you call that? You had a bunch of people who were all colluding together to do something illegal. The phrase for it:
conspiracy.
Conspiracy. Yeah, that actually is a conspiracy.
It's we got to think about these things, have knowledge of these things, move forward through deep spiritual practices, through deep personal understanding. Because if one of the greatest things that every single person listening to this, everybody not listening to this can do is learn how to harness your intuition. Because that's for you. Nobody controls it. You. That's deep, deep knowledge. That's knowledge that comes from other sources that somehow all comes in and can give you the answer that you may not have known previous. Your intuition. It can save your fucking life. Because it saved mine. So Beautiful. that's what we're here. We're not here to spread fear. There's a lot of things we're going to talk about that are going to be a little icky for people. Other people are going to be like, yeah, I know this. Let's go on. Let's get deeper. Let's move. And to those people, I'm like, let's get our intuitions powered up. Let's all become our own authority. Let's take over through taking over ourselves, not the government. Mm-hmm. Let's take over ourselves. Take over yourself. Become powerful. And this is the biggest thing we can do to fight back against the Matrix.
That's what it's all about. That's the Agents of Aquarius right there in a nutshell.
That's what we're doing here, baby.
Nicely put, my friend. Nicely put.
Well, thank you for finding this time to be with me, brother. I love you much. And I'm glad I could be here to help spread this information to the people, to our brothers, to our sisters.
Yeah, let's shine a little light in the dark corners of the world and brighten it up a little bit.
Fuck yeah.